the current stimulus package and those stimulus checks, as well as the potential looming collapse of Social Security and Medicare. This is a really important one, and that's mainly what this video is going to focus on. But hey everyone, today is Tuesday, August 11th. Welcome back. This is Matt. Let's get right into it. I'm going to spend about 1 minute really quick, talk about the current stimulus package, those stimulus checks, and where do we stand? Well, basically there's not a whole lot of new information other than the fact the four people we've been talking about in the last few videos, Steven Mnuchin, Mark Meadows on the Republican side, those two, as well as Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer on the Democratic side, have basically gone back to the drawing board to figure out what they can do to compromise and negotiate this thing out so that the two sides can come back together and hopefully get something worked out. This is so ridiculous. It's been how many weeks now? They haven't done anything. So hopefully they can come together on it because, as all of us know, those stimulus checks, the second round, is being held hostage right now within that package that is not being passed because of other issues. However, because of the executive orders that were signed over the weekend, basically these sides feel like they probably don't need to come together because some of the issues that they've been arguing about were somewhat handled in the executive orders. Now, again, when I say handled, I'm going to use that term lightly because, there's other underlying issues with the executive orders that were signed, but that's not what this video is all about. I want to talk about the concern of the potential looming collapse of Social Security and Medicare. I've been seeing a lot of comments lately in the last couple of days. So many people are concerned about this, and I want to make a dedicated video about this because there's just so many of you. Like I said in my video yesterday, I basically focus my videos around these groups of people, the people that receive Social Security, low income, SSI recipients. When I say Social Security, I mean retirement, disability, survivors. I mean all of you. My videos typically pertain to all of you. So when I talk about potentially the collapse of Social Security and Medicare, it affects almost everybody. Of course, not everybody, but a large percentage of the people that watch this channel and these videos. So with all the concern that we've been seeing, I wanted to really talk about this and kind of talk about what does this mean. All right, so let's back up and talk about where did all this come from. This past weekend, President Trump signed 4 executive orders. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but let's talk about the one that makes sense and relevant to this conversation, and that is the payroll tax cut. Now, what does this mean? It is a deferral, as it currently stands. It's a deferral of payroll taxes that are paid by the employee. That's 7.65% that's paid by the employee, and those funds go to fund programs like Social Security and Medicare. So again, as it currently stands, this is just a deferral of those taxes. So basically what that means is when the employee gets paid, they take out 7.65% taxes, they roll it into these programs. Actually, 6.2% of that 7.65 goes to Social Security, while the other 1.45 goes to Medicare. So that's the breakdown of it. So it goes to those programs and helps fund those programs. So any of you receiving Social Security benefits, that's basically where these programs are funded, is from these taxes that are paid by W-2 employees. So what does this mean? The deferral basically means we're not going to take that 7.65% out of your taxes now. However, in a few months later this year, we're going to come back to you and say, hey, we didn't take those taxes out of your check a couple months ago, but now here we are sitting at the end of 2020 and we want our money. Cough it up. Well, that's how it currently stands. So if that's the case, it's just going to be a short-term deferral of those taxes, and then they'll be collected later in the year. However, here's the caveat. President Trump has come out and openly said if he gets reelected, he's going to do what he can to completely eliminate those taxes. Now, what are the implications of that move? Well, that would mean that those potential funds going into Social Security and Medicare at the rates that I just stated, 6.2% to Social Security and 1.45% of that 7.65% goes to Medicare. So what does that mean? If the funding dries up for these programs, what happens? Well, we could look at it at face value and think, well, if the funding dries up for these programs, well, they'd be obsolete, right? They would evaporate. They would just disappear over time. Well, that could be the potential theory, but let's look into this a little bit further. First, I want to start with SSI, okay? Supplemental Security Income. What is this and where does it get its funding? A lot of people, I think that this funding comes from Social Security. It doesn't. So here's the deal. Supplemental Security Income, SSI, a lot of people here on the channel receive this, and that's great. That's awesome. Nothing wrong with that at all. But here's the deal. The funding for SSI actually comes from the general fund. Okay, so it comes from the general fund. However, SSI is administered through the Social Security Administration. So basically, the Social Security Administration says, hey guys, we know what we're doing. We know how to administer these funds to all the people that need it. Just give us the money out of the general fund, and we will disperse that to the necessary parties and people as they need it each and every month. So SSI is not Social Security. It's not funded through Social Security, but rather it's from the general fund. So what does this tax cut and potential tax elimination mean for SSI? Well, of course, we could say it would have huge implications, but considering the funding comes from the general fund, we can probably say SSI is probably safe. I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about SSI simply because of where the funding comes from. So that's what I wanted to say about SSI, just to hopefully clear that up, because I would guess that I was probably going to get a bunch of questions about that, so I just wanted to clear that up. Let's talk about Social Security. When I talk about Social Security, I'm talking about all of the programs under the Social Security umbrella, which includes retirement, disability benefits, and survivors benefits. All of these are included under the Social Security umbrella. So when I say Social Security, I'm referring to all three of those unanimously, okay? So that's just what I'm getting at. So let's think of this situation once again. The funding dries up. Let's just say we look out a few months from now, President Trump is reelected, and he goes through and completely eliminates this tax. What does that mean? I just talked about it just a minute ago. It potentially means that these programs, Social Security and Medicare, no longer have funding. However, let's just think through this though. Do we think that these programs are just going to be completely forgotten about? Here's a stat that might be interesting to help kind of back up our theory on this. In the United States right now, there are roughly 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. Every day, 10,000 baby boomers every day turning 65. What does that mean? At the age of 65, of course, unless they took early payments, they started drawing early. In most cases, most people that turn 65 will start drawing on Social Security. Social Security retirement at 65. 10,000 of these people are turning 65 every day. Now, of course, not everybody that turns 65 is going to be eligible. However, I'd be willing to bet that a large percentage of that 10,000 is probably eligible. Let's just say, for all practical purposes, let's just say 8,000 of those 10,000 that turn 65 every day are eligible. That means potentially 8,000 applications are going to Social Security for retirement benefits every single day, just from retirees. What about all the disability claims or the disability applications going in every day? I mean, I don't know what that number is, but I'm guessing it's not 10,000 or 8,000, but I'm guessing it could easily be 1,000 or two, easily. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea what that number could be. What about all the survivors benefits that are being applied for each day? Again, we're looking at a ton of applications going in potentially on a daily basis to Social Security. So the point I'm trying to get at is, with all these people coming in for assistance, as in submitting their applications, looking for, the benefits that they've basically been promised their whole life because they've paid in their whole life, and now here we are, we're 65. I've been promised this. I want my monthly check. What the heck? Give it to me, guys. I guess, can we suspect that this program is just going to be left on the wayside and just forgotten about? Of course, it could be. But considering SSI gets its money, its funding through the general fund, we could probably anticipate that Social Security and Medicare could also potentially continue to live on through the general fund. Now, again, this is not going to be something that just takes place next month and all of a sudden everybody on Social Security, see you guys, your funding's gone, find your own way. That's not how it's going to be. If this goes through, of course, this is going to be something that is way out into the future. Of course, I don't know how many years out, but I don't think this is something we need to be concerned about right now. However, it is something that we should keep on the radar and just continue monitoring, maybe every quarter, maybe semi-annually. Just continue to watch this a little bit. Again, if President Trump gets reelected, we might want to watch it a little bit more closely, just to see what he does. I guess right now there's really no cause for concern because as it currently stands, that payroll tax cut is just the deferral. So it's just the deferral. Now, if he gets reelected and wants to move forward with completely eliminating that tax, then we could be talking about potential other issues. So I hope this is somewhat helpful and clarifies the potential downfalls of what is to come, and potentially kind of opens up some, just opens up our mind to like how many people are really, requesting these benefits on a weekly or daily, monthly basis, and kind of what does this mean for the programs. Another thing too to think about is with this many people applying for these benefits on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, what's the likelihood of this program continuing on indefinitely into the future anyway? Realistically, there's going to be way more beneficiaries drawing from these programs than the funding that will be coming into these programs anyway, even if it continues. So one of a couple things could happen. Either the program could completely disappear in many years from now, it could continue to get federal funding from some other program, or the other way they could do it is just jack up the tax rate. The employee portion is that 7.65%, and then there's the employer portion, which is also an additional 7.65. So maybe they raise that tax to continue these programs indefinitely. So anyway, I hope that's helpful to you and hopefully clears the air up a little bit. I wanted to make this dedicated video, like I said, because there's so much concern right now, and I get it. It's potentially scary to think that, hey, the funding for these programs that sends me my monthly benefits that I rely on to live on is potentially having the threat of being, eliminated, drying up. It's scary. So that's what we currently have right now. Like I said earlier, the current stimulus package has those second stimulus checks within it. However, they're being held hostage because of other negotiations on different parts of that bill that are being held up right now. So hopefully we can get some movement soon. As soon as I get that information, I'll let you know right away. But otherwise, have a great day, everybody. I'm here for you. Leave any comments or questions below, and be sure to subscribe if you're new.